Hi friends, Krista here. Thanks for stopping by Books and Jams and welcome back to a reading vlog for Battle of the Booktubers. I am so excited to be participating in this project hosted by Danny Dabbles. She has compiled a ton of booktubers together, put them in 4 rounds, and I am participating in round 4, and I have recommendations from 3 other booktubers, and I'm going to read them and see what I think about them and see who is ultimately the best recommender of books. In this vlog right now, I'm starting to read books from booktuber B in my group. I don't know who that is, but I'm very excited about the books that this person has chosen for me. I think they did a really good job. One of them, Hummingbird by Natalie Lloyd, I had heard of before. It had been recommended to me. It was on my want to read list. And I believe we're going to have differently abled person and included drama, middle grade. I think everything about this sounds like something I'm going to love. I'm just so excited. I think this is going to be a big hit. And then the other book is the only one of all of the books recommended to me this round that I didn't know about, that I had never heard of before. And that is Lazaretto by Diane McKinney Whetstone. This, however, sounds right up my alley. It takes place in Philadelphia, post-Civil War Philadelphia. We follow a young Black woman who gives birth to a child fathered by her wealthy white employer. I'm trying to not read too much about it because it's kind of fun and rare experience for me to enter a book without really knowing much about it. So I'm kind of going to go into this blind. I didn't even read the rest of the summary. I just know it's going to be about race issues and a historical look at Philadelphia. So I'm really excited. One of the blurbs says it's completely engaging, so I'm hopeful. And I have both of these on audiobook, so I'm really pleased about that. So yeah, I think I'm going to start with Hummingbird. I am in a middle grade mood. My last audiobook was also middle grade, and so I think I'm going to start with this one just to kind of kick off this vlog. Both of these I found on Everand, so I'm looking forward to diving in. I will check back in a little while and let you know what I think about it, but let's see how booktuber B did in recommending me some books. All right, I'm about 30 pages into the Hummingbird, or just Hummingbird. I'm getting a feel for it for sure. I really like our main character, Olive. She has brittle bone disease and has been in a wheelchair basically all of her life. I love her fierce mama and how encouraging and empowering she is. And the whole first scene was really them all going to church. And at church, some older woman who didn't know them, a stranger, comes up and offers to pray for Olive. And it's like the worst experience. And it makes me so mad because I was just loving this glimpse into the different reasons why each of them goes to church and what they like about it or don't like about it. And then this woman comes and she's like so aggressive and the worst type of Christian, just so clueless and ignorant and inappropriate, and it really ruffles my feathers. Ugh. But I really like Olive. She has this huge desire to go to middle school and show everybody that there's nothing wrong with her, that she's more than just her bones that break easily, because when everybody else sees her, that's the first thing that they notice and the first thing that they see. She's like, I'm so much more than that. I'm just really enjoying it. I also really like the writing. I typically don't like books that have an overuse of similes and metaphors, and this one is pretty flowery, but some of the similes, some of the metaphors, they've just been so good and thought-provoking. And so I'm really enjoying it so far. We'll see if that continues to be something that I like about it or if it starts to make me roll my eyes a little bit, but I'm hopeful that this girl will get to go to middle school. Also, the title just showed up, and that's one of my favorite things to do is title spotting. But right at the end of the chapter that I just finished, as soon as that lady prayed for her mom, took her out of church, and they were driving home, and they go through this almost storm of feathers. And there's been a lot of talk about changes in the air. Her uncle who drove her to church was feeling uncomfortable because some kind of change was coming, and she's super hopeful. Olive is super hopeful that change is that she's going to get to go to middle school. But it just said because change was on the wind and it was bigger than any of us knew because the hummingbird was coming. Dun, dun, dun. Like, what's the hummingbird? I can't wait to meet it. or see what that's all about. So I'm definitely intrigued. I'm enjoying the audiobook and I'm enjoying the writing, and I love Olive. So I'm hopeful that this is going to continue to be a wonderful story. We'll see. I need to make sure to keep it spoilery free. Usually when I do a reading vlog, it's for my patrons and I get to share all the spoilers. So I need to be careful to be a little bit more vague about the actual story. But I figure I'm still at the very beginning, and I will try to do less details about the story, more about the writing and stuff and my feelings and impressions as I carry on. I'm going to carry on right now. Every once in a while, you come across a book that just makes you smile while you're reading it. The Hummingbird is a book that is just making me smile as I'm listening. There's a touch of magic now in the story. There's a legend that gets told, and is it true? Is it not true? We don't really know, but I love the hint of magic. I still am loving Olive, and it's a pet peeve of mine when middle grade books have adults that are awful. I mean, I know sometimes that's reality, but in this story, Olive's family is fantastically supportive, and the teachers that she encounters at the middle school so far are wonderful. Wonderful. Oh my word. I'm just loving it so much. I'm just loving it. Oh my goodness. Listen to this line from the chapter that I just read. So the teacher was just telling the kids about this legend of the hummingbird and what the story's all about, the feathers falling and all of that, because that's kind of what's going on right now as well. So one of the kids in the class says, "It's all just a story," said Maddie. "I don't know why people are getting so worked up over this." And the teacher says, "Maybe so," Mr. Watson said. "Maybe it is just a story, but maybe stories are everything." Oh, as a reader, it just makes my reader heart just melt. I love that. Stories can be everything sometimes. Oh, I love it. I'm just smiling all the way through. Is this going to be a 5-star read? Oh, I don't know, but it kind of is giving me 5-star vibes. I'm not even halfway through. I'm only about a quarter of the way through. But if it continues along this vein, this might be a 5-star read, friends. I mean, you kind of want that, but also this is a competition. Part of me wants all the books I recommended to be 5 stars, and all the ones I read did not quite hit 5 stars. But also, who doesn't always want to read a 5-star book? I always want to read a 5-star book. So I knew I was going to love this book when it was recommended to me so many times. Oh, I hope it continues along this way. I hope so. We'll see. Good morning. It is the next morning and I'm doing things a little backward. I've already had a shower, but now I'm going to do a little workout. I know that's a little bit backwards, but it is what it is today. I woke up early with a bit of a headache again and thought a hot shower would help, and it did. But now I'm just going to do like a walking chill workout. So nothing intense and hopefully not too sweaty, but I'm just going to get my body moving a little bit. But I did want to say I got past halfway last night listening as I was getting ready for bed and all of that. And I do think there's a little bit of a lull in the middle of this because we're all just kind of waiting in anticipation for this hummingbird, this mystical, legendary hummingbird to show up, like ready for something more to happen. However, I'm also really enjoying watching Olive make her first friendship outside of her family, and her and Grace are just getting along like a house on fire. Like it's very sweet because they're on this mission together to find this hummingbird, solve the riddle, and get their wish. Like that's what the legend is. There's this hummingbird that randomly shows up. Not every year, it's like decades in between, but this hummingbird shows up and the person who finds it gets a wish answered if they know kind of this riddle. I have a feeling there's going to be more to it than just simply what the girls are thinking right now. But I'm still enjoying it and I'm eager to finish it probably today. So I just wanted to kind of do a quick little check-in before my day gets started. Hello. I just finished Hummingbird. I drove a little bit a ways to go visit my friend and have dinner with her and listened to the rest of Hummingbird on the drive. And it was a really lovely story. I teared up a couple times towards the end. I really liked it. I think the metaphors, the overuse of metaphors and similes a couple times did get a little almost cheesy for me. Some of them were really beautiful and thought-provoking, but some of them I was just like, oh my gosh, can we just say what we mean and mean what we say? It just felt like a lot at times. And it was a story that was very overly positive, maybe, except that Olive is dealing and struggling with having osteogenetic syndrome. I forget what it's called, where brittle bones syndrome, basically. And she's dealing with that. And like many middle grade books, struggling to accept all of who she is. So part of this legend of the hummingbird is that if you encounter the hummingbird, you get to make a wish. And so she's, for a minute, struggling to decide what her wish would be, wants to wish away this part of her, even though she's surrounded by people who don't think of her as any less, or don't think of her as any different of a person, and raised her to accept all of who she is. And really wonderful adults in this book, which I love. There was not one single adult that was a brat. They were all really wonderful, which I did like that a lot. And I really liked the magical realism. I'm not always a magical realism kind of a person, but in this one, it was delightful. Like the little snippets of magic that show up along the way were very uplifting and beautiful and just light. And I like that kind of magical realism. I don't like when magical realism is like dark and creepy and negative. This was a very positive, uplifting book about friendship and learning to love even the hard parts of yourself, and being okay with those times when it's just hard and when you can't do things, or when your limitations prevent you from participating in some things or whatever. Like, there are just aspects of life that are difficult, and it's okay to sit with that for a minute, but also to realize that you are more than one thing in your life. Like, she is, the main character, Olive, is more than just her diagnosis. She's more than just being fragile. And the whole story really was about her coming to realize that. So it was lovely. I think I'm going to land on a 4.5 because there were a couple times that the similes and metaphors just became too much for me. And there was a little bit in the middle that just dragged a little bit. Like, I wanted it to move a little faster, but there was a lot to love. For sure, a lot to love about this story. So 4.5, fabulous book. I'm very, very happy that I finally read it. And now I'm going to move on to Lazaretto for this booktuber B. But so far, they nailed it with Hummingbird. So I'm very hopeful for Lazaretto. We shall see. I am out on a walk and listening to Lazaretto. I barely got started the other day, so now I'm hoping to get a good chunk in and get into the vibes, the feel of the book. It opened up with a pretty decent, pretty graphic birthing scene of a woman giving birth, which was pretty intense and graphic and a little much, but it kind of does set the scene and introduce some of the characters. Now I'm just in chapter 2 and even more characters are being introduced. It's always this part of the book that I'm like, am I gonna understand who is who? But I think I will. It is set during the time of when Lincoln was assassinated in the United States, President Lincoln. So while the mom who had just given birth was kind of recovering and getting cleaned up and all of that, they learned about Lincoln's assassination. And so the young Black woman who was the midwife assistant, I think, she told the mom about Lincoln's assassination, and everybody's crying and all of that. I think I'm gonna like it. So far, I'm getting along with the writing style and all of that, and we'll see. I'm so early, it's hard to tell, but it's kind of fun because I've never ever heard of this book before. So we'll see how it goes. But on to the walk and some good old listening time. All right, I have made really decent progress in Lazaretto today. I'm 43% done, which is amazing. And I'm finding the story to be pretty compelling. So we start out with Mita giving birth, and Sylvia is the nurse apprentice midwife. Where I'm at right now is like a decade or 15 years maybe after that day. Mita is a Black girl, and her employer is the one who got her pregnant, and she was told that her baby girl died. We know that that's a lie, but we don't know what actually happened to the baby. In hopes of assuaging his own guilt, her employer allows her to go work at this orphanage with some infants for a little while. And she kind of not officially adopts, but there are 2 little boys there who she takes care of. And those boys we follow through their life as well, kind of coming of age story and what happens to them. They stay at the orphanage, but they get to go stay with Mita on the weekends and all of that. But now they're teenagers. And also I learned that Lazaretto is the name of the first quarantine hospital, I think. When people come to America, if they have any kind of illness or whatever, they have to stay at the hospital until they're well. Sick passengers and corpses are quarantined here. Place where immigrants take their first steps toward the American dream. And Sylvia gets the opportunity to go work at Lazaretto. So I'm kind of interested to see, we have barely, we haven't gone to Lazaretto at all. I just know that Sylvia got a job there, and I'm 43% in, but it's the title of the book. So I feel like there should be a little bit more about that. We'll have to see if that's going to happen. There have been a little bit of things that I typically don't like in books, some language, some relationships, choices that people have made and different things. But I do feel like the pacing is going really quickly. I feel like we're moving right along and not spending any long amounts of time in any one part of the timeline, which is good and bad. I feel like the characters that I know the best right now are the 2 boys that Mita kind of adopts, sort of, when they're infants. I feel like we're spending the most amount of time with those 2 boys as they're getting older, and the other characters are a little bit more on the periphery. So I don't know if that's intentional. Honestly, I didn't even read the summary of this. I just went in completely blind. I'm not sad about that. I'm just curious where it's going to go. But I like the relationship that these 2 boys have with each other, how they look out for each other. One of them tends to be a little more musical, and the other one is really good at numbers and math. And so he kind of gets into playing cards and wants to learn how to count cards, and getting into like the gambling side. He's a little bit more rough around the edges than the other. So it's kind of cool to see their opposite personalities and how they get along so well with each other. So I'm enjoying that. I'm actually enjoying the story decently well. It's not capturing me emotionally. Like, I don't feel very emotionally invested in this story. If I were to stop right now and put it down, I don't feel like I would be really missing out or like desperate to know what happens, because I feel like there's not much of a storyline. I know at one point the boys get in trouble and they run away from the orphanage and then end up getting to New York. So now they're kind of in their late teens, maybe mid to late teens. They've come back to Philadelphia for the first time, and we learn that one of the boys is a little bit sick, but I don't know what's wrong with him. So I wish there was a little bit more depth to the plot, but it does feel like it's moving along at a pretty fast pace. And I'm just really curious to know why it's titled Lazaretto and we haven't yet even been there. So I'm very curious about that hospital and people coming to the States and having to stay there and all of that. Yeah, I'm just curious about that aspect of things and wondering if we're going to get to see that. Yeah, it's good. We'll see. I should be able to make some more progress this evening and hopefully get back on one more time, or just kind of let you know how it's going. I'll check in again in a little while. It's looking like 3.5 right now. If it pulls me in a little bit more and connects with me emotionally, I will probably bump that up. Or if like there's some big twist or something that shows up that surprises me in some way, it will get bumped up. But otherwise it might get bumped down to a 3. But where it's at right now is about a 3.5. All right, I am more than halfway in Lazaretto now. I just had to pause because there was a line in it that my friend Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand hates every time she sees it in a book. And so every time I see it, I notice it now. And it said, he let go his pent-up breath, which he hadn't even been aware he was holding in. I mean, we know when you were holding our breath, right? It's just that line of let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. She hates it so much. So it just made me chuckle as I was reading. But we're finally at Lazaretto, at the island where the hospital, the quarantine hospital is. And usually they don't have a lot of traffic, people coming, because it's like ships that are coming into America. They all have to stop at the island and everybody has to get checked. Animals, people, everything. And anybody that's even remotely sick, fever, anything, has to stay at the hospital until they're well and can go onto the mainland. So it's kind of fun. Like, I like the interactions between people. It's not going to be a favorite book of all time by any means. I feel like it's going to ultimately be kind of forgettable, which is never really that good. But it is an interesting story as I'm listening to it. I still don't know what's going to happen towards the end. I feel like the plot, the storyline is a little bit muddy. Like, what are we talking about? What's happening? Is there going to be any kind of climax? Like, it doesn't feel like there's much direction to it. I just feel like we're following these people as time passes. But like, why? Why are we following them? What's the point? That's what I want to know. It's a little more interesting than other books that I've read that kind of have this. It's not a slice of life. It's definitely following these people through time, but I'm not exactly sure what's the point. I feel like more is going to happen at Lazaretto because obviously the name of the book has named it. So I'm looking forward to continuing now that we're kind of all there and seeing what might happen. So yeah, I don't know if there's going to be any kind of big climax or twist or what, but I'm invested. I'm going to keep going. I should finish probably tomorrow. I think I have 2.5 hours left on the audiobook. So making decent progress. It's not like wowing me really in any way. So we'll see. All right. I am here because I finished Lazaretto. I'm so sad that I didn't love this book. I really want to love everything that I read. And there was a lot about this that felt like it could be good for me, like it could be a win for me. But unfortunately, it just wasn't. I think I've talked already about how the plot was kind of missing. Like, where are we going? What is happening? It was definitely more character-based, but if you're going to be more character-based, then you've got to develop your characters a little bit more. And I just felt like there were holes all over this. There were meandering storylines. There were things that didn't get developed deep enough. There were parts that didn't seem necessary. There was a messy middle. We'll just say that. I enjoyed the beginning. There was a huge messy middle. And then the ending was okay. I felt like we picked back up with moving the plot forward and wrapping up some of the things that had been introduced. But the ending at the same time was convenient. Like, things wrapped up a little too well for one of our characters. But also it kind of left it not ambiguous, but it didn't shut the door. They walked out the door, but they left the door open behind them. That's a really bad metaphor. I wanted just a little bit more from the ending. And there was in this book I wouldn't call it a plot twist, maybe like a mystery or a secret that was very obvious to me early on. And then it was revealed that I was absolutely correct at the end, but I don't know, it didn't have a good rising and falling action and climax. Like, it didn't have a good plot line. The characters were not really well developed. We have black and white relations, and where they stood in culture at the time felt ambiguous and not really dealt with enough. We had one woman at the very beginning who was giving birth, and she had been basically raped by her employer, her white employer, and she was a black woman. Another section of the book focuses on a lesbian relationship between a black woman and a white woman, but that never gets really developed or talked about, or it was just kind of glancing. We have family relationships, friendships, like there's all different kinds of love expressed in here. I do love some of the relationships. I do love the friendship between Sylvia and Nevada, but even that was like underdeveloped. I just feel like so much of this was underdeveloped. I loved Mita and her love for these two white boys that she works with in the orphanage, and the way that she takes them under her wing and and they love her and she loves them as though she were their mother. And that's about it. There wasn't much that I really loved about this. Ultimately, I think I said it before, it feels forgettable. I feel like I'm not going to remember this at all because nothing was deep enough to draw me in fully or to pull at my heartstrings or anything. It just felt very surface level, at times info dumpy. There was one scene at the end that was like, if I had been there, or if this character had been there, then this and this and this and this and this would have happened as things got revealed. But he wasn't there, so that's not how things went. I'm like, then what's the point of all that you just said? He wasn't there, so none of that happened. I don't know. It was bizarre. And yet readable. I finished it in just a couple of days. I was not ever feeling like I wanted to DNF or set it down. At the same time, I wasn't feeling like I really cared either. So where do we land with that? I think I'm going to land with an almost 3. I don't ever do quarter stars, but I'm giving this one a 2.75 because I feel like it's almost a 3. But at 3 and up, I feel like I would recommend to other people because it was a good story. There was something really good about it. And this is just almost there, but not quite. So I'm going to give this a 2.75. What a bummer. I feel like the historical aspect of this, the relationship aspect of this, the two boys aspect of this, like there were things about this that I would really enjoy on paper, but it just didn't hit the mark. So we do have a 4.5 in Hummingbird. I really loved this one. This one was really special. Loved the magical realism. Loved the story of this girl with brittle bone disease kind of learning to accept all of herself and finding of her place in the world of middle school. And then Lazaretto, which I'm going to land on a 2.75, which was just ultimately a bit of a bummer. Ultimately. So we have these two books, and if I had to guess who is the booktuber that recommended these to me, booktuber B, I'm going to guess that it is Sam. And the reason is because of the middle grade. I think of the 3 women that I got to be in this round with, I think Sam reads a little bit more middle grade than the others. And because of that recommendation, and because I saw on Goodreads that Jess DNF'd this one, so I don't think she would have recommended it because she DNF'd it. So I did see that when I was looking through things, but yeah, I'm gonna guess that's Sam. That's my powers of deduction. Means that for me, Sam is booktuber B. Sorry, Sam, that I didn't love Lazaretto, but I really loved Hummingbird, so you got me half right. That's going to be it for me today. I would love to chat with you about either of these books. If you want a little bit more detail or not, let me know. I would love to chat with you in the comments as always. Thank you so much for watching, and please do go check out Danny's channel and Sam and Jolene and Jess's channels as well. I will have everybody linked in the description down below. Check out their vlogs and see what I recommended to them this week. If you can guess which ones, because they don't know. They don't know which books are from me, but watch their vlogs and see if you think that those books were the ones that I picked for them or not. I will be very interested to know if you can guess it correctly. I'm just having an absolute blast participating in Battle of the Booktubers, and I'm so glad that I get to participate. It's so much fun. So check out all the things, comment down below, and I look forward to talking with you in another video very soon. Bye.